Hey guys, what's up? Today I'll be doing something very exciting. I'll be previewing a project. Which project? It's Forett at Bukit Timah. It's a very exciting project because it's going to be the first that is slated to launch once Singapore moves out of this phase of circuit breaker and maybe into a phase where we can allow for physical viewings. The show flat is open and Forett at Bukit Timah is the first highly anticipated project to launch. With me today, I've invited the project IC from PropNex, Jeremy Tan, who's able to share his insights and give some exclusive information even before the news is released to public and before the preview. If you're interested in projects in general, you're interested in the west side of Singapore, interested in Beauty World area especially, make sure you stay till the end of this video. I'm sure you gain a lot from it. Without further ado, let's welcome Jeremy Tan. Hey
Hi,
Jeremy.
Jim. Hi Jim, hello, good to see you
Hello,
again.
good to see you.
How are you?
I'm doing very well. Yourself?
Yes, me too. Been a good time this circuit breaker.
I see. Maybe you want to kick off with sharing a bit about yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Jeremy Tan. So I'm very excited to be here on Jim's program to share with you a little bit more about Beauty World because this is a place where I grew up, right? As a student, I was actually studying in the Harry Park area, and from there, after school, every day I would just pass by the Bukit Timah Plaza. I would stop by over here for to eat at the KFC and to really enjoy the area. I played LAN here. I played arcade. I played football at the field in front of Bukit Timah Plaza, right? And so this is actually a very exciting place for me. It's where I grew up. And I'm actually looking forward to all the transformations, all the things that are happening in this area.
Nice. I think you would be the best person to be sharing about this project in that sense, given that you more or less grew up in the area.
Yes, I hope so.
So maybe I can start with the first question. I think this will be easy for you. Talking about the Beauty World area, if we look at the projects, since we're talking about real estate today, if you look at the projects, the last launch in the area was actually Hilford, the 60-year leasehold project back in 2014. Since then, however, I've noticed that there's no launches at all, in fact, until just a couple of years back. And since a couple of years back till now, there's so many launches in the pipeline. Some already launched, like Daintree, like View at Kismis, and upcoming, besides Forett, you have Link, you have Verdale. I mean, did anything change? What's going on at the Beauty World area for there to be such a huge influx of properties coming online now?
So Jim, you are right. There haven't been too many launches in Beauty World, and I think one of the reasons for that is very simple. Because the Beauty World area is actually a largely private and landed enclave. So if you look at this map over here, the greens are all the landed homes, the pinks are the private homes, right? And if you see, there's actually just one portion of HDB flats in this area. So in terms of new developments, if there were to be a new development, it either has to be an en bloc redevelopment of a former site, such as like Good Luck Gardens becoming Forett, or it has to be a repurposing or rezoning of an existing land plot. So for example, the Daintree land plot used to be a school, right? So these are the two scenarios where there is new land in the Beauty World area. So I heard you mention about Hilford at the start, and I think that's very interesting because for Hilford, this was actually one of the developments that was very highly sought after, especially by developers. So for developers, 23 different developers came in and bidded for this land. And after it was launched, Hilford fully sold in one day. Right, so that's the kind of demand that we have for a development like the Hilford. And right now it has one of the strongest...
Wow, fully sold in one day.
Correct, fully sold in one day. Quite hard to imagine right now, but that's what happened.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say that. It's quite hard to imagine a fully sold in one day.
That's right. That's right. Yes. So moving forward, right, I think what is very key over here is why are developers thinking, why do they come in for a land in Beauty World? Right, because after Hilford, right, the next plot of land that was sold is actually the Daintree residence plot, where not just 23, 24 developers came in, right? And if you look at the bids that came in, right, actually the bidders were actually the big boy developers in Singapore. We had UOL inside, we had Keppel inside, I think you had CDL and Hong Leong that came in. And of course it was won by SP Setia, right? But that's the kind of demand that that plot had. And the top 7 bids all came in within a very small percentage of each other. So I'll say that the Daintree sale actually sparked off the en bloc wave in 2017 and 2018.
I think that was really quite a good time in the real estate market in Singapore
Yes.
then.
Correct. That was a real boom, right? So what are developers looking at? What did they spot about Beauty World that we didn't see then, but perhaps we see a little bit better now? If I may share a little bit more.
Sure, sure. Proceed. We would love to find out.
Yes, so I think three things that are very key that are happening over here is what I call the GIC transformation. So you know, GIC is a Singapore brand. It's for something. It's something that represents transparency. It represents something that's stable, right? And I see a GIC transformation in Beauty World as well. So firstly, G, greenery. What do we have? You know, the existing, the former railway tracks that linked Cantonment all the way through to Woodlands and all the way through to Malaysia, right? That railway track, right, has been redeveloped in the past few years. Actually, it's still being redeveloped as we speak, and will actually be completed quite soon, right? So this actual railway tracks, right, are now being the railway corridor, right? So greenery is being rejuvenated in Beauty World. So right here you see it's actually done up quite nicely. I like how it has a jogging track and a lot of greenery over here. Right, so that's just one G.
Runners would love it.
Oh yes, yes. I need to do some running myself. Can't wait.
We both should.
Yes,
Yep.
yes. Yep. So greenery, I think that's something that if buyers love greenery, right? Nowadays it's very rare to find. You can't find it in too many places, even though Singapore is a garden city or a city in a garden. But greenery it has an increasing premium. And once there's greenery, right, what we actually notice is that across the world, there's actually an enhancement of the value of properties where there's greenery. So that's just one transformation that's happening, because I think the one that's on most people's mind would actually be the infrastructure, what's happening. Because in terms of infrastructure, we are actually having a new integrated transport hub. So what's an integrated transport hub? It's actually a shopping mall, it's actually a bus interchange, sometimes with residences, and that's what we have at Beauty World, residences as well, and all these integrated together with the MRT station. So this will be a full-scale development, a little bit like Jurong Point, a little bit like Clementi Mall, right? And in terms of this development, right, guess what will happen when an integrated transport hub comes into an area?
I think there will be a lot of hype in the area, because it means that the government has big plans in the area and probably thinks that there will be a population that can be well served by a transport hub. Hence, they have that plans.
That's right.
Am I
that's
right?
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I also think that this integrated transport hub that you mentioned, is it the land that government has released for sale? Or should I say is planning to release for sale?
Correct, that's right. So this plot was actually scheduled for launch in June, right? So in June, the tender requirements will be announced, and this plot will probably be tendered in the next couple of months, right? So I think this will be a highly sought after plot. We are expecting a strong demand, and I can barely imagine what the pricing of this would be when it's finally launched for sale. So that's just one of the infrastructure developments that's happening in the Beauty World area. I think another one that is a little bit more under the radar is this, right? We actually have a new MRT line, the Cross Island line. So if you remember last year when the Cross Island line was announced, we actually announced from Changi all the way through to Bright Hill. And what happened was this: when the line was announced, properties in Serangoon, as well as in Hougang, they had a boom, right? Do you know why?
Because I believe one of the interchanges is at Hougang.
Correct, that's right.
And so, Serangoon? Is that correct?
That's right.
There's a Serangoon North. Yeah.
At Serangoon North, that's right. Yeah, so with MRT lines coming up, what we see is that there's a lot of returning demand, a lot of demand that comes into the area, and that actually sparks off new prices for the area. But what happens is this: because we have only announced to Bright Hill, but we stopped there. Because we were making a decision whether to go through MacRitchie Reservoir or to skirt around it. And right now, I think that's been decided. They are going through MacRitchie Reservoir. And what will happen next is this: there will be announcements coming up on a Bukit Timah interchange, right? As to where the exact location is, we don't know yet. But there will be a Bukit Timah interchange, and the way I see it, there are probably only two places where it could go.
I think that the Cross Island line has been in works for a long time, because if you notice, it's always around the Beauty World area, there's always construction going on.
Yes.
If you notice, it seems to be there forever. Am I right? So,
yes, that's right.
I mean, I have clients as well who are quite familiar with the area and familiar with the Bukit Timah Dunyan Road area where there's also King Albert Park Station. In your view, do you think that the interchange station would be at King Albert Park or would it be at Beauty World?
Honestly, I think either way is good. The way I see it, it could really happen at either area because these are both areas where there is actually quite a strong ridership, if I may say that, because of the schools, because of Ngee Ann Poly, right? So what I would say is this, whichever way it happens, I think you are a winner because if it happens at Beauty World, am I right to say it's a bigger transformation?
Yes.
Yet, on the other hand, if it were to happen at King Albert Park, then the King Albert Park area, right, would have a second transformation. So either way, I think it's a win.
I think that's fair, right? It's just like if you're talking about the West, if Jurong East has some transformation, it affects Clementi as well, right? And vice versa.
Exactly. That was actually exactly what I was going to say. It's like Jurong East and Clementi.
Oh, okay.
If one happens, the other one is benefits.
Right. True. Makes sense. Okay. I think you have given us a very good understanding of the Beauty World area as well as the future potential. Maybe I can move on to my second question.
Sure.
Let's go a bit more specific towards the project at Forett itself. Like we spoke about briefly earlier, there are a number of projects that are coming up, already launched and coming up soon. So for example, Daintree and View at Kismis has already launched. Each has its own selling points. For example, Daintree, I understand, is going to TOP soon, and it's also the lowest on per square foot basis for a new launch. As well as for View on Kismis, it's the lowest quantum that makes it a strong selling point to buyers who want the cheapest entry point into the area. As well as the new launches coming up, what do you think would differentiate Forett from its competitors in future?
I think what you're really asking me is what sets Forett apart. And I think there are three things, right? Firstly, it's the land size, S. Then the elevation and the tenure, SET. These are the three things that set Forett apart. So firstly, when you look at the land size, Forett sits on a land size that is 360,000 square feet. How big is that exactly? Today, right now in Singapore, there's actually another launch of a similar size, and that one has a yield of about 1,400 units. In terms of our vicinity, 360,000 is actually larger than Daintree, View at Kismis, and the Link at Beauty World combined. Right, so Daintree is 201,000, View at Kismis is about 100,000 thereabouts, and the Link that is about 30,000. So all these will actually still be less than Forett at Bukit Timah. So that's just on the land size. For Forett, we actually also have a very long 300-meter frontage. And am I right to say that a lot of the most popular developments, a lot of the most visible developments, landmark developments, they actually have got very long frontages. So for example, the Leiden or the Interlace or Reflections at Keppel Bay, all of these, they all have got very large, very wide frontages, just like at Forett at Bukit Timah. So I think that is a win for us.
I certainly would think so, because generally the longer the frontage, the bigger the land, the more prominent the development is, right? As it's more visible to people passing by, walking by, driving by. I think that makes a project more prominent and stands out among the other projects.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, so I think the second thing that we will talk about is the elevation, because for Forett at Bukit Timah, we are actually on a 1.4 plot ratio. And if you know 1.4 plot ratio, right, typically the max you can go is 5 stories. But for Forett at Bukit Timah, because the former Good Luck Garden had 9 stories, so we are actually able to go up to 9 stories as well. So we are a 9-story development sitting on a 5-story plot, right? And that is very rare. I don't think I have seen any other development.
That was really quite interesting when I saw it as well, because High Oak nearby, Terrene, I understand they are only about 5 stories. Yeah, so the fact that you can go higher, I think when I first saw it, I was pretty surprised to see as well. Yeah.
That's right. I think all of us were, and I think that's something that's a highlight, because towards the south and towards the east and towards the north as well, right, we actually get quite very good panoramic views, because our surroundings are, like I mentioned earlier, are all landed and private 5-story developments. Okay, so next I'll talk on tenure, because for Forett we are actually a freehold development, and a lot of the surrounding developments, they're actually leasehold, right? So that is something that that causes Forett to stand out as well, right? So the three factors, the size, the elevation, as well as the tenure. I think these are what sets Forett apart.
Cool. Great answers. I think Forett does stand out because it's firstly freehold.
That's right.
Link is also freehold, right? Just that Link is a much smaller plot of land. So in terms of new launches, it's very rare to find a freehold with such a large plot. And Daintree, Kismis, Verdale, they are all double 9 years, right? As well as the upcoming government land sales.
99, yes.
Then I guess let's move on to one of the common objection that's actually brought up to me by one of my clients as well who's interested in Forett. Hopefully you can share some information to help me overcome this objection. So
I certainly hope so.
So the question is that estimated prices, he has somehow heard that the estimated prices are going to be about high 1,008 to more than about 1,009 per square foot. And at that price per square foot, the premium over the surrounding resale properties, even when you're comparing the 999 or the freehold projects such as Terrene or Signature Park, is more than a 20% difference in terms of per square feet. How do you think Forett can justify this difference? And is it worth it to buy Forett?
Okay, I think in terms of pricing, we don't just want to look in one area, but to see how the pricing compares with the rest of Singapore. So when I did my research, what I've discovered is this. So right here, we have actually got both the RCR, which is the city fringe locations, as well as the OCR, which are the outskirt locations. And what are some of the pricings that we saw in 2019? So if you see, in the city fringe locations, right, actually in the past year, there are actually a lot of developments that have already transacted at about 2,000 to 2,005 PSF. So actually for Forett being in the RCR, wouldn't this be a fair price to pay, about 2,000 to 2,005?
Right?
I
mean, looking at these numbers, if it's a comparable RCR, yes, I would say it is pretty decent.
Yes, but what's happening is this. On the other end of the scale, we actually have got some prices that we see for the OCR as well. For example, Park Como. Park Como is located in Changi, right? So nice area, but it's in Changi, right? And that's coming in at 1,005 PSF. Another development, Lattice One. This is actually in the Sembawang area. Are you familiar with Lattice One?
Oh, no, I've never heard about Lattice One.
Yes, I also am not familiar with it. So when I saw this, I actually did some research about it, and I discovered it's actually at the Sembawang Hills area, near to Tagore, near to the Mandai area, right? So imagine you're paying 1,007, almost 1,008 for development in an area like that, right? Is it a fair price?
That's really quite unbelievable. I learned something new here.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the kind of pricing that people are already paying, right, in this area, right? And next, Urban Treasures. This is actually at Bedok Reservoir Road, right? And oh wow, it's 1,950, right? So that's the kind of pricing that people are willing to pay for freehold development in Sembawang Hills and Bedok Reservoir Road, right? 1,007, 1,008, 1,009, 2,000. So if Forett really launches at 1,008 to 1,009, 2,000 price range, right? Am I right to say we are actually coming in at Bedok Reservoir or Sembawang Hills kind of price?
Yes, definitely. Having said that, I can't help but notice that these figures in this chart that you have for us here, they are 2019 numbers, meaning to say it's before, as you know, the current COVID-19 situation is pretty much fully upon us and we are all affected in some way. Do you think that the developer has already priced it in accurately to price it at about 1,008 to 1,009?
Yes, I think that's definitely something that has happened, because if I look at the surrounding prices, right, there's no reason for Forett to launch at 1,008 to 1,009 in normal circumstances. Because why? When you look at the surrounding leasehold developments, you actually see there are actually 1,006, 1,007 on average for leasehold developments already, right? And this is in the same area as well, right? If you consider Mayfair Gardens and Mayfair Modern, which actually had a similar land cost as Forett at Bukit Timah, you actually see it's actually 1,009 to 2,000. So actually 1,009 to 2,000 would probably be a fair price. But because of this COVID situation, right, I'm afraid the developer has no choice but to really price it a bit more sensitively, really to factor in the numbers that they need to make in order to make this a worthwhile investment for them. So I think because of COVID, actually, there's actually a rare opportunity, because typically when we look at freehold developments, right, they are transacting at 20% premium easily compared with their leasehold equivalents, right? And this is no longer a premium that we might see, because Forett at Bukit Timah, if it launches at 1,900 to 2,000, it's actually at the same prices as Mayfair, which is a leasehold development.
So which they like to say you're getting a freehold at leasehold price, right?
Exactly. Yes, you know the pitch better than me.
That's because previously I recall when they were selling Mayfair previously, I think somehow that statement came in. I can't remember the exact details, but yeah, somebody said. I guess now we are really seeing it with Forett, where Forett a freehold is selling the same price as leasehold.
That's right. Yeah. So I think the basis of that question has to do with resale as well, and I think I want to touch a little bit on that, because when you look at the pricing that we are looking at for Forett, right, actually for a two-bedder, it starts from about 1.08 mil thereabouts, right? On average, I would expect that it will be about maybe the 1.2, 1.3 range, and perhaps for some premium units, 1.4, 1.5 mil. So how does that compare with the surroundings? Our surrounding resale developments, despite a lower PSF, they are actually transacting at 1.3 to 1.5 mil. And this is not data that I cherry-picked. This is actually data that has been transacted in the past year, right? This is actually recent transactions, and this is the numbers that we are looking at in the beauty world. So actually, people are willing to pay 1.3 mil to 1.5 mil for a resale condo already, right? So what more for a new launch condo which has new facilities, which has everything that people are looking for nowadays?
Makes sense. So I guess what you're trying to say is that from a quantum perspective, people are really willing to pay about 1.3 to 1.5 for a two-bedder. So in contrast, if you're looking for a two-bedroom, Forett seems like a good choice.
Right. That's right. I would say so. I think the two-bedders at Forett have been priced very attractively, really to capture the hearts and the market in this area. So another thing that people ask me, Jeremy, why is the pricing, why is the PSF for Forett higher than the surroundings, right? So I actually did a little bit of research into the surrounding floor plans as well to see a sample of why there is this kind of pricing difference, right? So for example, Terrene, we actually see that two-bedders have transacted in recent times, 2018 and 2019, at 1.5 and 1.48 million, right? So these are real and actual transactions. But when I looked at the floor plan, I was actually quite surprised, because the Terrene layout, right, is actually from a previous generation where they were actually trying to make indoor space and outdoor space quite seamless. So therefore, when you look at the balcony size itself, the balcony is literally the same size as the living room, right? And you actually have bay windows across the whole unit, even in the master bath. Right, so it's like you sit down and take a shower.
Good point. Good point. When I look at the floor plan, the balcony is the same size as the living room.
So I played jigsaw puzzles. I played jigsaw puzzles, and when I put the red spots, right, into the rooms, right, you actually discover that it actually aligns with the living and bedroom one combined, all the red areas. Right, so what does that mean? That means that literally about 30 to 35% of the unit, right, is in the bay window and the balcony.
Yeah, and even the kitchen has a bay window.
Yes, I think so. Yeah,
so you can sit down while cooking.
Right. Read a book.
Okay.
Yeah. So actually, once you remove all these spaces, right, about 35%, from 1,000 plus square feet, it becomes 700 plus square feet already. And actually, it becomes very similar in size, similar in PSF, maybe even higher than Forett at Bukit Timah.
Makes sense. Yeah, I think for two-bedders to be more than 1,000 square feet, we really don't see it that much these days. I think in terms of building design, it's also been much more efficient than the buildings before. Thanks for answering that objection. I will share the video with my client to see what he thinks.
Yes.
Moving on, what kind of buyers do you think Forett will attract?
Okay, so we had a session with the architect and the developer recently, and what they said they were looking at is actually the Instagram generation. So I think this actually shows itself in terms of the unit mix as well. So Instagram generation meaning people that are probably younger, 30 to 40 years old, either single or newly married or with kids, because when you look at our surroundings, actually Forett is actually surrounded with many good schools, right? So what we have, 78% of our units will actually be 2 and 3 bedders. So I think that will be the main targeting, young families, people who are starting out a starter home, as well as what we are seeing right now, right, is that a lot of young single ladies, they are actually getting places for their own, perhaps for investment also, right? So I think these will be the 3 main groups of buyers that we'll see at Forett at Bukit Timah.
Looking at a unit mix, I noticed something very interesting, that there's no 1 bedroom at Forett.
Yes, there is no 1 bedroom, but that we actually have got 1 plus study. I think that is something that is quite useful, because nowadays when you look at 1 bedders, when they are about 400 plus square feet, in terms of the usability of the space, it's a bit limited. I had a tenant who actually has a lot of action figurines, and when he rented a 1 bedder, he had no space to put them. Right, so with a 1 plus study, right, actually, perhaps maybe an international school teacher from the surroundings, if she were to rent that unit, right, she will have space for her clothes.
I see. It probably could be also because of the regulations of the larger average sizing, that I think 1 bedroom units are becoming rarer, especially those of maybe just a bit above 400 square feet. Hence, I think developers may be building them a bit larger. Hence, we have more 1 plus studies. Do you think that is so?
Actually, Forett isn't affected by the 85 square meter ruling because we are in the RCR. But yes, I think that is so. I think we'll see a decreasing number of 1 bedders in upcoming developments.
And it also seems that 2 bedrooms are quite popular with buyers nowadays.
Yes, I would say so. Yeah, I think with the current family sizes, where a lot of Singaporeans have maybe 1 kid or 2 kids, actually a 2-bedder is starting to make a bit more sense that it would have perhaps in my parents' generation. I think with the newer generations, what we place a premium on actually is in the surroundings, in the living environment, rather than the space in the house itself. Because nowadays, right, with kids always playing on the iPad or the handphone, right, sometimes we just want them to go out there and play with their friends, make friends, right? So I would say that moving forward, we would see probably more 2-bedders, and we would see perhaps more unique and distinctive child-friendly facilities.
I do agree with you on that, except when it's circuit breaker and sometimes we have to be at home. Then we can't ask the kids to go out. Yeah, so anyway, since you're part of the project team, you're one of the ICs, can you tell us when will Forett likely be opening for preview?
Okay, this is something that we also have a very big question mark about, because firstly, we have to see whether viewings at show flats will be allowed in phase 2, right? If it were to be allowed, I think the Forett show flat is about 90% ready, and perhaps once the approvals are in, we could actually get started with the preview. But I think something that might throw a spanner in the works is whether there's a general election that happens in July, thereabouts. Because if a general election were to happen, I don't think the developer will want to clash with that, right? So I would say that most likely, if we can, we'll want to launch in July. But if it's not possible, then I think the next possible slot will probably be in August or September, just to avoid the 7th month as well.
So Jeremy, is there any exclusive preview early information that you can give us today?
Okay, definitely. I think the question on everyone's mind is what's the pricing, right? For Forett at Bukit Timah, our 1 plus study will start from 888K, and our 2-bedders will start from 1.08 mil. So if you look at it, our pricing actually starts from 1008XX for the PSF, right? So I had one buyer who asked me, Jeremy, the cheapest unit confirm is Stack 44. And when we look at the site plan, right, what I actually discovered is this: there is no Stack 44. So if you like the number 44, I'm sorry to disappoint you. You have to go for 0404 instead.
That's really quite interesting, that there's no 44 on the site plan. If you didn't say, I think I wouldn't notice as well.
That's right. Yeah. So So in terms of the units, I think we are quite uniquely designed because of the height difference in Forett at Bukit Timah. So for example, our block 12 over here versus our tower blocks, there's actually going to be an 8-meter height difference between these two. And if you look at it, right, that means that there's actually a lot of room for the landscaping as well as how the development is laid out, right, to play. Right, so what we will have, we actually have 5 pools. We have a karaoke room for singing nights, right, as well as sky terraces at block 3. And this will actually give you views outwards towards the Bukit Timah as well as towards the city, right? Not forgetting our surrounding developments, they are actually all low-rise or landed homes. So in terms of this, what we have for our garden facilities, right, we'll actually have a lot of lawn spaces. We'll actually have our mirror pools as well. So a lot of green and blue spaces. And if you notice, our function room, right, is designed in such a way to really provide an immersive experience for both the lawn as well as for the pool. So pools wise, we will actually have a lot of reflection pools. I think this will be quite interesting because this is actually space for us to perhaps relax and wind down after a long day's work. Perhaps even in the current period, right, if it were to happen again, right, it could even be a work from home or a digital nomad kind of working area.
Provided they open up the facilities.
Oh, yes. Provided
as of now, the condo facilities are closed. Yeah.
Yes. So we also have the sky terraces. I think the sky terraces with the high elevation, right, that actually gives you an elevated view as well because we mentioned an 8-meter height difference. So if each floor is 3 meters, essentially that will be a 2.5 to 3-story height difference. So the sky terrace potentially will be at a 12-story kind of equivalent.
Wow, these are some great illustrations that you are sharing with us today, and also that you're sharing the site plan. I didn't even know it was released yet. I hope it's okay for me to put this info online.
I hope I don't get caught. I think it's fine.
Okay, good to know. Anyway, I think we're almost at the end of our conversation. Can I just ask you for one more thing, Jeremy?
Sure.
I think you've been very helpful in this video. You shared with us a lot of useful information about Forett, about Beauty World. I think you're the expert to go to with for anybody who wants to know more about this project. Is it okay if I include a link with your contact details in my YouTube description so that if anybody has any specific questions that they want to ask you where it may not be so convenient or as easy to share over this video, you can deal with them personally?
Definitely, I think that is very necessary because for every property purchase, right, there are a lot of private details, for example, finances that go behind it, right? And I want to be able to help you to really identify what you're looking at on a more one-to-one basis to really provide you with the correct advice as to the unit type that you're looking at, the unit facing, and what you can look for, whether it's for your own stay today or whether it's for legacy planning in the future.
Legacy planning, very nice term to use there. For all my viewers watching this, I certainly hope that you have learned something from this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure, please remember to give me a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button before you close the window, and in the comments below, let me know any questions you have about Forett. I'll do my best to answer it, or I'll even ask Jeremy to come back to answer it. Once again, thank you so much, Jeremy. It was nice having you on the show. I'll see you and everyone else in my next video. Catch you guys around.
Thanks, Jim. See you.